After serving as U.S. President for over a decade, Harold Ford Jr., the political commentator and U.S. Congressman, has been relatively tight-lipped about his private life. While he is no stranger to the limelight, his wife Emily Threlkeld has chosen to remain out of the spotlight for the most part. Finally, after 16 years of marriage, she opens up. Her words were, "First, let's investigate the life of Harold Ford Jr." Harold Ford Jr.'s story takes place in Memphis, Tennessee. The city of Memphis is rich in political and cultural heritage. As a child, Harold benefited from the influence of a prominent family in the area. He had an innate talent for politics that he was unaware of. Harold Ford Sr. had already paved the way as a long-serving congressman, and Dorothy B.S. Ford played an integral role in the family's legacy. Being the eldest of 5 siblings meant that Harold was expected to take charge from an early age. A politician's son he was also. The Ford family name is highly esteemed in Memphis, particularly among black residents. It all began with Harold's grandfather, N.J. Ford. Running a funeral home wasn't his only accomplishment. He also established a network. Community members gathered at funerals not only to say their goodbyes, but also to form bonds and acquire influence. Those connections will get you far in Memphis, where politics is paramount. Even he was secured by N.J. Ford. Crump was a powerful white Democrat who, in the early 20th century, essentially controlled Tennessee politics. Friends in influential positions helped the Ford family get access to opportunities. Power, as one might anticipate, accompanies drama. Harold Jr.'s uncle, John N. Ford, was a state senator from Tennessee who, well, became accustomed to being in charge. The 2007 federal bribery case known as Operation Tennessee Waltz rocked Tennessee politics. He was one of those people. Envision a household where political discussions were constants. It must have been a wild Thanksgiving dinner. Was Harold Jr. either learned his lesson from his uncle's fall or became even more determined to stay out of trouble afterward? Harold Ford Jr. sat courtside during political campaigns and absorbed the lessons of triumph and defeat. However, how did he gain success? By drawing on his family's past? Be cautious. In addition to taking pride in his family's political heritage, Harold Ford Jr. made it his own. After finishing high school, he gathered all of his belongings and enrolled at Penn. He earned a degree in U.S. history in 1992. Harold had no interest in pursuing a career in academia, though. Government and politics piqued his interest more. Upon finishing college, he dove headfirst into the process of deciding on regulation. The Senate Budget Committee, where he worked as an assistant, taught him how the nation's capital works. Builds up from the bottom, executed flawless. A special assistant position at the U.S. Department of Commerce in the United States, where he gained further insight into the inner workings of the state. However, Harold yearned for more. Returning to his academic roots in 1996, he enrolled in the University of Michigan Law School. He was well aware that a degree in law would serve him well in the political arena. No matter how challenging, Harold was hell-bent on succeeding in law school and laying the groundwork for a political career. The bar test was the lone offending factor. Harold, who was unsuccessful in his run for Tennessee Congress, attempted to become a lawyer at the same time. As of 2014, he had still not followed through on his promise to try again. Was that license ever necessary for him to practice law? After all, he was already enjoying himself in politics. One possible explanation is that he felt he had more pressing matters to attend to than to take the time to understand the implications of proposed legislation. The results of a single exam would not determine Harold Ford Jr.'s fate. Harold Ford Jr. quickly became well known in the political world. Before Harold Ford Sr. thought it was time to step down from his 11 terms in Congress. He could have done it at any moment. It was ideal. Harold sought election to the 9th Congressional District of Tennessee in 1996 while he was still a young man. His family name carried a lot of weight in this predominantly black and Democratic town. It is possible that he had a slight advantage. He had good intentions. His father had served for over 20 years in government. It takes more than a famous name to get elected. You must prove that you are capable of carrying out the duties of your office. Harold Jr. was a foregone conclusion in the Democratic primary. In such a heavily Democratic district, he breezed to victory in November after winning the primary. He was one of the youngest persons in the United States when, out of nowhere, he became one at the age of 26. Legislative body, S the past. Upon arriving at work, Harold wasted no time getting to work. He represented Tennessee's 9th District in Congress for a decade, beginning in 1997 and ending in 2007. Along the way, he gained a reputation as a moderate Democrat who could win over conservatives and liberals alike. He ascended to the position of head of the Democratic Leadership Council, an organization that advocated for moderate policies and became a rising star within the Democratic Party. Though he was youthful, driven, and politically astute, Harold Ford Jr. experienced defeat like any other hopeful leader. Even a plane ticket could land you in hot water in Washington, D.C., so it was no surprise he was in deep trouble there. More than 60 trips were funded by private donors between 1998 and 2003 for Ford. For both professional and political reasons, he traveled to various locations. Many lawmakers take trips, so it's not a big deal. Supposedly, he went 5 years without disclosing his travel expenses to the House clerk, a violation of ethics regulations that went unpunished, except for 2005, when the Washington Times dug further into the matter. It turned into a tale out of nowhere. All right, the response came from Ford's office. His attorneys argued that he had timely and accurately disclosed the trip's financial details. The missing trip forms were not turned in until August 2003, but by then the damage had already been done. The media covered it extensively, and the critics thoroughly enjoyed it. Instead of concentrating on his political future, Ford had to explain his background. Was this a simple oversight on the part of the paperwork, or was something more sinister afoot? Was this a major crime that didn't require much attention, or did he truly violate the rules? That wasn't the first time Ford was under scrutiny for reasons unrelated to his policies, whatever that may have been. Harold Ford Jr. was supposed to make a splash in the 2006 Tennessee Senate race. He was on the cusp of becoming Tennessee's first black senator since Reconstruction, and history was about to be made. A charming young man he was. He was running against Republican Bob Corker, and some polls showed that he had a slight advantage. Everything seemed to be going according to plan for him prior to that advertisement. Politicians have long used attack ads, but this one surpassed all others. A stunning woman who claimed to have met Ford at a Playboy Club party appeared in an ad for the National Republican Party. With a wink and a smile, she told the camera, "Harold, call me." Her intent was crystal clear. Because the ad exploited long-held racial stereotypes, people were more interested in Ford's private life than in his policies. Even Bob Corker seemed to have reservations about the advertisement. Despite that person's request, his group refused to remove it. It was too late to prevent the harm. The scandal threw the race into disarray as it diverted attention away from substantive issues and onto personal attacks. Suddenly, Ford began to fall behind in the polls, which he had been leading. He was trailing Corker by only 3 percentage points on race day. Even though they came up short, Ford's performance stunned many. A young black Democrat narrowly missed becoming the senator from a deeply red state in the South. It was difficult. Many political scientists saw this as proof that Ford possessed the charisma and abilities to advance further in his political career. After retiring from politics, Harold Ford Jr. entered the high-stakes world of Wall Street. One of the biggest banks in the nation, Morgan Stanley, hired him as a managing director. It was a radical shift from Congress to corporate boardrooms as the new meeting place for major deals. It was expected that Ford would achieve success in business given his reputation for intelligence and charisma. In late 2017, things changed rapidly. Allegations of Ford's dismissal due to sexual misconduct were widely reported in the media. The claims shocked many, and the news spread rapidly. The intriguing part, though, is that a statement from Morgan Stanley was released later on, denying any sexual misconduct. In reality, what transpired? Ford and Morgan Stanley reportedly settled their lawsuit in January 2018, according to the New York Times. Because nobody was privy to the details, the entire affair remained somewhat under wraps. Is he the only one who departed? Did the story last longer in terms of terms? Ford denied any wrongdoing and continued with his work. Whenever Ford gets into trouble, he always manages to get back on track, reinvent himself, and remain prominent in the public eye. This was far from an isolated incident, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. It is said that for every great man, there is a powerful woman. One such woman was Emily Threlkeld for Harold Ford Jr. We must admit that Harold Ford Jr.'s political and Wall Street careers were not without their ups and downs, but Emily was by his side through it all. Who is this enthusiastic leader's romantic interest then? There has never been a professional spouse quite like Emily Threlkeld. Her impeccable taste and sharp mind have made her famous in the public relations and fashion industries. She met influential people and formed lasting relationships while working for the renowned New York designer Carolina Herrera. Not only had she entered Harold's world when they met, but she had also created a fantastic one for herself. They started dating in 2007 and then got engaged in 2008. They tied the knot on April 26, 2008, bringing their relationship to the attention of loved ones and, naturally, many politicians. She was charming and well-versed in public relations while he had experience in politics. Whenever they joined forces, they were formidable. Emily, however, wasn't idly staring. Her involvement in Harold's campaign for the Senate was crucial, and she had a hand in molding his public persona. While he spoke publicly and discussed policy, she worked quietly to ensure everything went off without a hitch. Finally, a master tactician is an essential component of any great leadership team. Following this, they welcomed a daughter, Georgia Walker Ford, and a son, Harold Eugene Ford III, into the world. Life was never peaceful for them because they were a young family with a busy job. Emily stood by her family through thick and thin, encouraging them to persevere through political upheaval and media scandals. Emily Threlkeld has been a bit of a mystery. People are curious about the identity of the woman behind Harold Ford Jr., since she has not been in the public spotlight like many political spouses. Others see her as the company's mastermind, while others see her as merely a reserved and helpful wife. The reality. Next, let's examine it more closely. Long before her marriage to Mr. Ford, she was causing waves in the fashion industry. She wasn't merely attending high society events. She was also secretly helping Hollywood's A-listers look their best. She was a publicist for Nina Ricci, the renowned French fashion house, when she was a young woman. Having to interact with A-listers like Jada Pinkett Smith and Renee Zellweger must be a nightmare. Before she oversaw political campaigns, she did, in fact, oversee red carpet looks. Making sure the right people wore the right clothes at the right time wasn't her only responsibility. She was also responsible for building companies and taking care of identities. Once she entered politics, her talent for meticulously plotting out her moves would serve her well. After getting her start at Nina Ricci, Emily moved on to work for another major fashion house, Carolina Herrera. She persisted in her role as publicist, running ads, promoting collections, and maintaining the brand's visibility. Whether it was the unpredictable political world or the fast-paced fashion industry, she knew how to handle stressful situations. How come she abandoned all of that? Why did she decide to forego the glamour of the fashion industry in favor of a life of public speaking, political campaigns, and scrutiny? Do you believe she ever imagined herself married to a political rising star and having a family that would be in the spotlight? Even though Emily isn't very talkative, her actions speak volumes. While keeping her private life under wraps, she deftly balances her career, marriage, and family responsibilities. However, her true feelings regarding her public profile and marriage to a politician remain a mystery. Emily clearly gives living in the spotlight a lot of consideration, since she has brought it up on multiple occasions. Immediately, she sensed that everyone would be closely watching her life. People will be curious about your whole life, not just your spouse if you tie the knot with a politician. Everything about your life, including your ideas and decisions, is visible to others. Emily, though, has handled the spotlight with remarkable composure. Neither does she seek it out, but she also doesn't run away from it. The constant scrutiny, particularly during major political campaigns, can be overwhelming, as she has expressed in interviews. She would rather assist her husband behind the scenes than in the spotlight. Being married to a politician isn't without its challenges. There's the unending political bickering at home, the public's incessant observation, and the pressure to project a specific image. After starting out in the fashion industry, collaborating with Hollywood A-listers, she found herself thrust into politics. She had never intended to be on this stage. When you're married to a famous person, you're bound to get some negative press. The truth is that as your fame grows, more and more people will have an opinion about your personal life. Is it something Emily has ever felt? She has definitely mastered the art of ignoring background noise. She is cognizant of the fact that the spotlight can be harsh at times and that politics isn't necessarily a picnic. However, Emily refuses to let that define her. She has learned to prioritize her work, her beliefs, and her family. Being married to a politician and employed in the fashion industry aren't Emily Threlkeld's only accomplishments. With a keen eye for fashion and a heart for helping others, she runs a successful business. Also, who doesn't appreciate an individual who is polite and professional? The swimwear company Base to Surf was founded in 2009 by Emily and a few other individuals. Yes, I realize that this wasn't your average bikini line. It was a chic, high-end label that Samantha August helped launch. They weren't peddling apparel so much as they were promoting an attitude of self-confidence, style, and risk-taking. Just picture yourself at the beach in a perfectly fitted swimsuit, knowing that its designer has experience dressing A-listers. That is appealing, isn't it? But style wasn't her life's work. As her husband's head of research, Emily played an equally crucial role in his career. It's time for a little break. It would be the same as going from researching political platforms and campaign details to picking out outfits for red carpet events. For you, this is a major career shift. In contrast, Emily breezed through it, proving that she was capable of excelling in any setting. The fact that Emily's interests extend beyond politics and business is even more intriguing. Not only that, but she's very giving to the community and does a lot of charity work. She has provided assistance to numerous organizations, including the American Cancer Society, the New York Public Library, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art, by ensuring that everyone has access to information, supporting cancer research, and safeguarding culture. She has made a significant impact in important areas.